Wow, do I look dead? Either way. Hello, my name's Elizabeth, but you can call me Liz, and in today's video, we will be talking about my top 5 favorite urban legends. So if you want to see that, keep on watching. But first, let's get it.
Mój dans makabre, więc chodź do tańca, gdy krok to szansa i los nam gra. Mam duszę starca, nie lubię walca na...
So today I will be talking about my top 5 favorite urban legends, and I realized after writing this down that I'm actually pretty basic. But I feel like a lot of these urban legends that I will be talking to you about today, I feel like you probably have heard about them, even if you are into like supernatural urban legends like I am. But they are a phenomenon that exists internationally sometimes. And just like any other video, you know, I decided to dress the part because I feel like basically like whatever ghost urban legend thing, they always end up transforming into like beautiful women and yada yada. And I feel like one of the most popular ones is definitely like a girl walking down the like highway in the middle of the night wearing a white dress, and then she asks you like,
can you give me a ride? Like, please take me home, yada yada.
And the man, bewitched by her beauty, is like, yeah, sure honey, hop on the back. And they go skirt skirt all the way to the house, and like if the guy is lucky, he makes it to the house, and then he's like in front of an abandoned building, and he turns and he's like, you live here? And to his surprise and horror, there's no one there, if he is lucky. Now if this poor dude is not lucky, he either gets into a car crash because he sees like, oh shit, this person is dead, like this lady is dead, or the ghost lady attacks him. Just saying. I wanted to, you know, create that vibe. I bought this dress. It seems more like I'm going to a wedding, but you know, it serves my purpose. And I decided to do my makeup kind of like I am in need of some C's, but also, you know, like, do I look dead, but like, do I look hot enough to be able to be picked up by random dudes in the middle of the street at night? Probably not, but you know. So let's get started. So the first one is the Wendigo, and this is a Native American urban legend and or ghost story. Because from what I heard and from what I researched, a Wendigo can either be a monster that has human-like characteristics, or looks like a human, acts like a human, but it's not a human, or it can be a ghost that possesses humans to do atrocious acts, and therefore that human that is being possessed by the Wendigo becomes damned, basically. So at first, from what I could research, it started as a cautionary tale for those who lived in the 1700s, the 1800s, like the early days in like by America and Canada, like by those borders. In the winter, it became really cold, and a lot of people didn't have enough necessities, enough food to be able to survive the cold, hard, long, harsh winters. Some people, not a lot, but some people kind of turned cannibal in order to survive and to be able to succeed. And the Wendigo story served as a cautionary tale to, yo, eating people is not a good thing, you know. It says that if the Wendigo is a spirit, this spirit possesses people who are very greedy, very gluttonous, very like, oh, I need this, more money, more this and that, you know. Basically, that ghost possessed the human became a cannibal. The human who became a cannibal basically was damned because he was greedy in life, therefore this is his punishment. Actually, something interesting that I found is that there is something called the Wendigo psychosis. So this is, from what I could tell, a actual thing that happens to people. And basically how Wendigos are basically cannibals, the Wendigo psychosis attacks people, so you and I, and it's this thing where people just suddenly start looking at other people, other human beings, and thinking, yo, you look super edible, let me bite you, let me eat you. But this individual, the person with the Wendigo psychosis, is also very, very afraid to turn cannibal. So they struggle between wanting to cannibalize their neighbor, their friend, being able to eat them, but also the struggle of like, I don't want to become a cannibal, but I can't help it that Jerry over there looks super edible. Like, Jerry be looking like a chicken McNugget over there, but I also don't want to eat that chicken McNugget. So I thought it was very interesting how even though Wendigos are a thing of Native Americans that they don't even talk about, so sorry. And like Native American tribes, I heard that they don't talk about it because like they believe it and it's so real that even if they say the name, it's kind of like inviting it or like being like, oh yo, turn me into a Wendigo. Sorry. But I thought it was really interesting how because of this like actual, I don't want to call it disease, but an actual thing, like the Wendigo psychosis is a thing. So I was like, oh, that's super interesting. I didn't know about that. The second one is the Banshee, and this is an Ireland urban legend. For some reason, I always thought Banshees were a part of both like Ireland, Scotland, the UK. It's probably like all around there. But the Banshee is basically a wailing woman who kind of predicts a person's death. It's said to be a fairy, but it's like takes on the characteristics of a beautiful woman for the most part, because I've heard other people say that a banshee can be an old lady, but it's like always a female. Most of the time, like 80% of the time, I would say she's a young female. She's beautiful. The other part is like she's old and this and that. But she is a female, and her scream is believed to be the omen of death. And her scream is basically called a cowing or a keening. And this like urban legend originated from like the olden times. There were specific women who would sing at funerals, and they would sing this beautiful sorrowful song, and they would get paid. And like apparently in those times, like they were seen as like, oh, promiscuous or this and that, so either way they were damned to be like banshees as well. Something that I found kind of interesting was that there are good banshees and there are bad banshees. For the most part, I feel that you and I both know the bad banshees, which are just women crying, wailing. You hear her screaming, and then you know that it's an omen of death, so someone you know is gonna die. I also heard like little things here and there that if you are able to see a banshee, that means that you yourself are going to die. Now the good banshees are basically women, females who have passed away, but like they come back whenever one of their family members passes away, and they sing this beautiful sorrowful song. And only like the family is able to hear the song. This song is filled so much with concern and love for like that family and family members that they just want to be acknowledged that they're there and be like, I feel your sorrow, like it's also part of my family. So I thought that was an interesting thing. So not all banshees are good or bad. But the one thing that is important that you have to know about banshees is that banshees are not the ones who kill people. Banshees are just an omen of death. Their scream, their wailing, their keening, cawing, they're just an omen of death. Banshees cannot bring death, but they just bring the message of death. So a banshee, like if you encounter a banshee, she's not gonna kill you. It just means that you're gonna die. Now a lot of people don't know how the banshee knows that, you know, there is gonna be a death in the family, but she just knows. But remember, banshees don't bring death. They just bring the news that there will be a death in the family soon. I thought that was like super important to let people know, because I know that some people are like, oh, banshees kill me. It's like, no, they're just, if you hear her scream, someone in your family will die. If you see her, you will die. Just saying. The third one, I feel like it's gonna be a combination of three things, which is virgin ghosts, women in white, and little girls in white. Now, I feel like these three things are very international, but they're also very similar to each other. Now, from what I researched, like if there isn't a woman in white somewhere around, there is gonna be a little girl in white. Was an interesting thing that I found. But also, like, just I feel like the woman in white is such a common thing. Like, from you have the Llorona in the Mexican urban legends, which is like, you know, the woman who drowned her children and then now seeks other children to replace them. And then you also have the Yurei, which is a Japanese vengeful spirit who is attached to an object or a place, and it attacks people who come into contact with them. So that also translates as a woman in white. Now these women typically are very beautiful. They're young. They basically wander around either in churches, schools, roads. You name it, there is a woman in white. Like, I have yet to not discover a country, a place, whatever, that doesn't have this story of a woman in white, and or a little girl, and or a virgin ghost. Now, I think the only difference between the woman in white and the virgin ghost is that they both have similar appearances. They're both young, they're both beautiful, they're both out to get you, basically. But the only difference is that the virgin ghost may have more unfinished business because she is very vengeful, regretful that she did not get to basically live a married life or anything like that. And like the woman in white sometimes has like unfinished business. Sometimes, you know, they run away from their marriage. They can't just take it. It's like very, very different stories, but similar concepts. And like if you watch Supernatural, like this TV show Supernatural, like the first pilot episode is about a girl in white, a woman in white, and she basically, you know, just wanders around, asks people to take her home. She can never go home, and attacks the unlucky dude that's like, oh, you're so beautiful, let me drive you, skirt skirt, die, you know. And it's such like an international phenomenon that I'm like, obviously there's like someone who has seen a girl in white and then they're like, oh yeah, but like in Japan there's also this, or in Korea, or like China, or Mexico, or I don't know, the UK, there's always a woman in white. Also, I feel like that makes me very basic because I like the like woman in white, virgin ghost, little girl in white ghost stories, urban legends, just because I'm like, yeah, but like it's like the same story, but then you hear other people talking about it, or other countries or cultures, and then they add their little twist to it, like, oh, I feel like you can find different stories about women in white, but they're all very different but similar. So I feel like that's why I like it about it, because I'm like, oh, it's like the same concept but different things or different punishments. So that's like a fun thing. For the first one, I'm going to combine both the Kitsune and the Gumiho into the same category, because they're basically both derived from like the Chinese, I believe it was called a Huajing. So all three, I believe, Huajing, the Kitsune and the Gumiho are all fox spirits. So the Gumiho is from Korea, the Kitsune is from Japan, and the other one is from China. So they all are very similar. They all revolve around foxes, fox spirits, and they all have, after some time, the ability to be able to transform into, guess what? Another young woman!
Honestly, like, dudes be having the worst of luck. Like, if you encounter a girl in the middle of the night, anywhere, run for your life, bro. She ain't it for you, bro. She probably a ghost, a demon, a spirit, a fox spirit. Just run, bro. Don't do it.
The difference is that the Kitsune can be both good and bad. In Japanese mythology, if the Kitsune, the fox spirit, transforms itself into a woman, they marry the man, and usually like their lives are pretty okay until like the man discovers like, you a fox, like an actual fox spirit, and then they divorce. But usually like in Japanese mythology and urban legends, the Kitsune is usually like the good Kitsune who transforms into a woman. Their stories are filled with love and like beautifulness. So the Kitsune is supposed to possess superior intelligence, a long life, and magical powers. And they are a type of yokai, which is, I want to say a spirit, but don't quote me. So they're a type of yokai, and they take, like I said, the form of young girls. Now, what I found interesting was that the Kitsune, they are associated with Inari, which is a Shinto god or kami, and they serve as its messenger. Now, if you go to Kyoto, there is a temple, and basically at the entrances of the temple, you have the Kitsune, which is like messengers of Inari. Now, like I said, the Kitsune, when they transform into women, like their stories are usually filled with love. They're really okay considering like they're fox spirits. They can also be a bit tricky, a bit like tricksters, you know, because they are foxes, and foxes are known in general to be tricksters. But for the most part, when the Kitsune transforms into a woman, they usually have an okay life. I wouldn't say great, but like an okay life. Now, on the other hand, the Gumiho. So the Gumiho is a 9-tailed fox spirit. And all three, Japanese, Korea, and China, and all three of the fox spirits, the Gumiho, which is the 9-tailed fox, it is said that this like type of spirit has lived for over 1,000 years. They're super old. They're able to transform into basically girls. Now in the Kitsune, if the Kitsune ever becomes a 9-tailed fox, they are able to ascend to heaven basically. Korean version, the urban legend of the Gumiho, they are able to transform into beautiful women, but their stories are not as filled with love and caringness as the Kitsune. Instead, they seduce men, and in different varieties and stories, they eat their liver or their heart. For some reason, like, even though they're all derived from, like, all three of them are very similar, the Gumiho is the only one that is regarded as an evil creature compared to the other two, to the Kitsune and the Chinese version. The Gumiho is seen as like this terrible like creature, and it's able to transform into a woman, seduces men, and lives in a forest, abandoned buildings, and everything. And like it also differs from the other two because it has something called the Yowo Gusul. And this like Yowo Gusul can provide powers, knowledge to the Gumiho, and it can absorb a human's energy. So basically the Gumiho kisses the male, puts in the marble, gets it back out, and has like new energy basically. But I was like really intrigued by it because I was like, oh, they're both fox spirits and they're both can transform into beautiful women, but like the Gumiho is seen as a really evil creature that like is able to transform into a human if it abstains from eating a person's liver or heart for 1,000 days, I believe it said. But like if it's able to abstain from eating human flesh, abstain from eating, then they'll be able to become human. But like usually it doesn't happen and then end up eating the human's liver because like that's also a way they can turn human. Not really. I was like really intrigued because I was like, oh, they're both similar, but like one is regarded as an evil creature and the other it's like me. Half good, half bad tricksters, but still are able, like they're shrine protectors. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And the last one is like a new favorite one that I got, mostly because like similar to the Wendigos where they have Wendigo psychosis, but it also serves as a cautionary tale. This is the Korean urban legend of Mulkuk. Now Mulkuk, I've talked about. If you've seen my McDonald's mukbang, I talked to my friend and she freaked out. Sorry, Linda. But basically they are victims of drowning, or they died somehow in the waters. They died somehow by drowning or by water or associated with water, and now they haunt the waters that they died in. So I feel like here in Korea it's like a lot by the Han River in Seoul. So a lot of people say that they've seen like Mulkuk in Seoul, and it basically lures its victims either by asking for help, like please help me, I'm drowning, or like please keep me company, I'm so lonely. The Mulkuk is basically a very lonely ghost and they just want company, but like they're dead and underwater, so if they want company that means they're either gonna try to convince someone, lure someone to be with them, or literally force them with them down below on the water so that person also drowns. I feel like what I found really interesting and why I really like the Mulkuk is because of the Mulkuk Jakjon, which is the water ghost tactic. The Mulkuk Jakjon. So this is basically used when you deliberately want to sabotage someone. So let's say you're staying late at a company, they have given you all this work, you have to finish it by like a certain time. So you see your boss and you're like,
Hey yo boss, like I can finish this on my own, no problem. But Jerry over there is also really good, even better than I am. Jerry over there, like if Jerry and I team up, we could finish this like in so little time, you have no idea.
So it's this concept of like, if I go down, you go down with me as well. I kind of like that because it's like an urban legend, but it also has, because it's so popular, it has sprouted this like Mulkuk Jakjon, like if I go down, you go down with me, like keep me company because I'm lonely, but because I'm lonely, you might die kind of thing. So I was like, oh, that's kind of like, I don't know if it serves as a cautionary tale like the Wendigo, but it's definitely like a, oh, this urban legend has transcended into like a actual human thing. Top favorite urban legends. I feel like they're both very basic, but I like how, because they're very basic and they're found internationally for the most part, like the ghost girl or the virgin ghost or the woman in white. I feel like if you go to different cultures, different countries, cities, you'll find the story of like a similar story, but they have their own little twists and turns. And I like how a lot of these serve as a cautionary tale, or they have transcended into our own human lives into a thing. So it's not just an urban legend, but it's a thing. Kind of like the Mulkuk 작전. So let me know down below in the comments. Question: what's your favorite urban legend? Is it like from your own country, your own city? Do you like any of the ones that I've talked about? Please let me know down below in the comments. Follow me on Instagram or Twitter at _GomezLiz. Bye. Thanks for watching.
Remember, if you see a young girl in the middle of the night walking by the roadside, run, my bro. Don't give her a little ride.
See you next time.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face. Tell me that you love me, even if it's fake.